The ERRC condemns Russia's military invasion of Ukraine, its bombardment and rocket attacks on cities that have targeted sheltering civilians in their homes, in hospitals, maternity wards, schools and kindergartens. Such indiscriminate acts, including the use of cluster munitions, are in violation of international humanitarian law and amount, in our opinion, to war crimes. This criminal aggression has caused the greatest refugee crisis in Europe since World War II. And my remarks today are confined to the challenges, discrimination, and racism faced by some Romani refugees and displaced persons. We applaud the massive efforts by civil society organizations and many state agencies to respond in solidarity with those fleeing the conflict. However, we must register the somber fact that racism doesn't vanish during wartime. Initial reporting and monitoring has revealed that some Roma face discrimination on the borders. They face ethnic profiling and verbal abuse, and some families have been refused assistance. Reports reveal that Roma refugees in one village are leaving for Germany after they say they were subjected to both physical and verbal assaults. Roma refugees recently returned to Ukraine from Hungary because they did not receive adequate support and no help at the stations. Roma volunteers on the Hungarian border have reported that Roma face racism and discrimination from authorities, municipalities, and in some cases by volunteers. Now, these may seem to be isolated incidents, especially when we consider the enormity of the challenge facing neighboring states and the generosity of the humanitarian response. But the history of anti-Gypsyism in Europe suggests otherwise, and the fate of Romani IDPs and refugees during and after the war in Kosovo must serve as a lesson that we must learn from. Anti-Roma prejudice ensured back in 2000 that despite being refugees fleeing war, despite fleeing coordinated pogroms, burnings, rapes, and killings, Romani asylum seekers were met with skepticism and suspicion. UNMIK even saw fit to place Romani men, women, and children in toxic, lead-contaminated camps for a decade. Over the years that followed the forced migration of tens of thousands of Roma, EU member states saw fit to initiate forced removals and returns that were as pitiless as they were unsustainable. Neither was there much public sympathy for their suffering. Refugee Roma from Kosovo were called bogus economic migrants, nomads on the move and on the make. Already, as Roma flee war in Ukraine, we have heard talk on the borders and reception points that Roma are not genuine refugees. They're simply crossing the border for hot food and sandwiches and any humanitarian aid that's going. Now, in 2019, on World Refugee Day, the OSCE Office called on governments to do more to ensure the primacy of human rights for all those seeking safety in our countries, so far away from home, and felt the need to insist that saving the lives of those in danger is an obligation and not a crime or even a favor. And they had to call for greater cooperation between national governments, border control authorities, and civil society to ensure that more human lives are not lost. ODIHR noted that even when refugees and migrants had reached safety, they often face intolerance and discrimination in hosting societies, and stated the right to life is paramount, but refugees also have the right to live free from fear of violence and discrimination. The criminal aggression of the Russian Federation has prompted a degree of solidarity unprecedented in recent European history. This precious solidarity in the face of barbarism must not, and if we remain vigilant, will not be tainted by prejudice and anti-Roma racism. To close, I would recommend that states in Europe, especially those who have signed up to the EU strategic framework for Roma inclusion, adjust their national Roma action plans to accommodate the needs and respect the rights of all refugees, including Roma refugee women and children from Ukraine, and to be alert and prompt in responding to any reported incidents of racist or discriminatory treatment. Thank you.